Hello everyone, this is Ken from Keystroke, and today I'm actually really excited to show you some of the changes we've made to Linktivity to really support people's Linktivity consulting services, or by extension their ACT consulting services. I mean, we've talked a fair bit about how to use Linktivity, and I'll talk a little bit about this at the outset, but this is a really powerful tool for not only selling ACT, but as you'll see, also for consulting and expanding your recurring revenue. So let's get started. So this is the home screen. Just want to mention as context, on Wednesday, I hosted a training session for the Newcastle ACT salespeople on the sales and positioning of Linktivity. And the most important message that I taught them was that Linktivity is not a means to an end, okay? Or it is a means to an end, not the end itself. Sorry, I see people coming in here. Again, I'm going to ask you guys to mute yourself, please. Okay, I don't know why this is not working. Okay, at any rate, so let's continue. So again, as I said, Linktivity is a means to an end, not the end itself. What do I mean by that? When you are presenting Linktivity, when you're talking to a customer, you're not talking about Linktivity in general. No one cares, but people care about their own needs. They care about, how are they quoting their customers? They care about how is their website part of their lead generation system. They care about surveys. They care about things that really relate to growing their business, generating leads, closing sales, things like that. They don't care what name brand it is. And the reason that I say that Linktivity is a means to an end, because if you focus on that, and you focus on the things that can directly help them, that they understand, that has a specific application to their business, they're not going to care so much which CRM is bolted onto the back end of that solution. Okay, they're going to be very enthusiastic when they see how well it's integrated, but we really want to tell people what their needs are and really how to address them. And by talking about a general CRM, all we're doing is inviting competition. We're saying, hey, CRM, great, make deeper relationships, be more organized. It becomes extremely general and much, much harder to close. So this is something that I've always taught people to really be specific when you're talking to customers and prospects about what their needs are, because if you get too general, you're going to invite in a lot of competition. Okay. So Linktivity provides, and just kind of give you real life examples, Linktivity provides very clear real world use cases for them, okay? Marketing and lead generation, engaging their websites with web forms and creating more CTAs, as I said, saving time and money with event management, enhancing customer engagements with online appointment setting, and literally monetizing people's time, okay? Harvesting customer feedback and insights with surveys, time-saving email list scrubbing, okay? And finally, converting those leads to sales with professional quote management. If you hit the right note with any of the entry points listed above, they will not care, as I said, which CRM is bolted on. They will care about how it's going to impact their business. But the thing that I'm going to show you today is not only the sales and positioning, but how you can use your own Linktivity account to really enhance and manage your consulting business. That's right, we've developed within Linktivity the ability for resellers and consultants to manage all of their customer accounts within their own login, okay? And help set up their users, each of their programs, and even help build things like web forms and events and surveys and blah, blah, blah. They can even help apply their licensing and renew them each year. Okay, so let's get started. So with the setup, the first thing you need to understand is workspaces. So let's go click here and let's go to workspaces. Okay, now this is my personal login. So you see Ken's workspace, that was the very first one that I created. And hold on. Sorry, just got a few more mutes. Okay, so here's the list of all the workspaces that I'm managing, okay? Now these are under the name column, this is the names that you give them, okay? They can be uppercase, they could be lowercase, they can have mixed characters. They don't even have to be unique, okay, because they just have to have a user-friendly name. What has to be unique is the alias, and when you're creating a workspace, okay, it will generate a unique alias that is different from all the other ones in the database, okay? Now, one of the things I was working with Tony the other day, and I had forgotten that the alias is all lowercase. So if you try to type in over top of what it auto generates and use mixed case, it's not going to accept it. So it's all got to be lowercase. This is the column that you're going to care about, and I'm going to show you why later. Okay, so this is the workspaces. Now, what I want to show you is that each one of these workspaces is completely self-contained in terms of the businesses, okay? So this one was my personal one. This is Keystroke. This is a customer. This is the one that I've set up with a completely different database that's pointing to my APC account, okay? So let's go into this here, okay? Now, when I click on here, let's go up to the API settings. You're gonna see my API settings. You're gonna see, sync.kqc.ca. Now, let's go back to the workspaces. Okay, now let's go into Encore. Okay, and now let's click on the API. Completely different, pointing to an APC account, a different database, different everything. And if I go here again, and I click on my demo account, all the setup information is going to be pointing to a different server still, okay, with a different database. So what this is just trying to demonstrate that the workspaces are really the whole self-contained everything, okay, but you can have a bunch of them within your own login account. I'm going to kind of go through the advantages of that. Okay, so each workspace has its own database, as you've seen, has its own licensing, has its own customer accounts, everything. Okay, sorry, API settings, licensing, you name it. Now you can apply and renew licensing to all of your customers' accounts within your own login. Okay, so you can be here, okay, and say, let's go to, my inventory. Okay, you can assign licenses, you can do all of this. It doesn't have to just be within it, but if you wanted, let's say that you had you just purchased a bunch of Linktivity licenses from ACT, and then you get you get the license keys, you can go to redeem, even within your own login. If you've set up the workspace and then select here, the drop down, which workspace you're going to apply. As you can see, I've got, the Encore, I've got my personal one, I've got Keystroke, and I've got Keystroke Demo. Okay, so I've got all of these different things that I can apply, and I can manage every single one from within my own login. Okay. Okay, now the one thing I want to mention, okay, is that let's say that you've got a number that you're managing, and you want to purchase licensing. Okay, and purchase licensing in this case within the Linktivity webpage. First thing I got to tell you, if you purchase it through Linktivity, there will be no ARR credit. So just be mindful of that. Okay, but let's say that you're managing this and you want to make the maximum amount of money. So you've got several people interested in, say, Link to Calendar. Okay, and you're managing all their workspace. You can click on here and you can see immediately that now this is my reseller login, okay? So I could see quantity of one, I get 20% off, but if I purchase 6, I get 25% off. If I purchase 11, okay, I get 30% off, and so on and so forth. So I can buy inventory and then immediately apply it to the workspace, okay? But just by changing the numbers here, any promo codes, whichever, all of these things would remain available for me to distribute, okay? And it's much, much easier when you're managing them all in the same workspace. So let me show you how that looks. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the workspaces, okay? Let's say I've just bought a bunch of inventory and I want to apply it to Encore, okay? Because they've just purchased 5 Link to Calendars, okay? Well, I purchased 6 because I got an extra 5%. So I'm just going to copy this because this is the alias. I'm going to go back to my inventory. Okay. And I can see I've got some linked to calendars here. Okay. So I'm going to click on assign. I'm going to just paste that in. Okay. Boom. Now, if I go back to the workspace and I click on teams and permissions, I'm going to see I've just added right here 0 of 1 of my linked to calendar. Okay. Now, if this particular user wants to get it, I just click on modify access. Boom. Save changes, and now they've got linked to calendar available in their workspace. Okay. I have not left my own workspace, my own login, and I've been able to manage licensing. Okay. So that's kind of handy. Okay. It allows you to manage, your inventory, and, in cases where someone orders 5, you can order 6 and get an extra 5%, manage it however you like. Okay. Now I showed you the inventory. Now, the reason that you did not see when I went to assign the inventory here, come on, when I clicked on assign, you didn't see a drop down like you had when I was redeeming, is because these can be assigned to any workspace in the Linktivity ecosystem. Okay, so anyone that's in any alias workspace, whether it's within your drop down list here, okay, or even if you're working with someone else and they say I've got the sale, you can sell it to them. Okay, that's why the difference between when you're redeeming, okay, you can only apply it to the workspaces that you're logged in and have direct access to, whereas this can be assigned to anyone. Probably the best case example is our KPPs, okay, where a lot of them set up trials and had nothing to do with our accounts. They were all managing their own, and I was able to just say, send me your alias, and assign it to them that way. Okay. Now, that's all licensing. Nothing has changed in that regard. Okay. But let's explain why this is useful. Okay. When you go to the workspace, okay, let's say you've got someone that is interested in Linktivity. They haven't set up a trial. They haven't set up. Think about what you can do for them to grease the wheels here. So you can click on new workspace, and I'm just going to say Jilly Bear, okay? And you can see here, Jilly Bear 490, all lowercase, has been auto-generated. If I type over that again, it has to all be in lowercase, so you can go with it or not go with it. The Jilly Bear thing is completely, as I said, it has no database significance. It's just an alias, okay? So create. Okay, so now I've got a new workspace. When I go to configure this, you'll see there's no API settings. Here is the cool thing that a lot of people didn't realize. As someone's consultant, you can take care of all of this for them, okay? Using their own ACT login, their own database name, okay? You can set up the API for them. If they're APC, they may not even know how to get the database name, even though I've shown you guys in previous, they may not know. So you can set all of this up for them, okay? And when you're done, click on save and then send an invite, okay? But let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm just going to back out of here. I'll just save these changes. There's nothing there here. So let's switch over to, let's go to keystroke. Okay, so let's say that I want to, I've created this, but I don't want to go through all the, the create parts because it's not, I've already covered that. But let's say that I'm back to my workspaces here, okay, and I want to, I've created, let's say, let's actually just jump into Jilly Bear here, okay, and let's say that I've set this up, I've used the person's ACT database, their API, their own login, okay, and I go to Teams and Permissions, and you can see that here's my name, okay, my name, okay, is the I can use my account, but linked to your customers' ACT login. So they don't need an extra ACT login just for you to support their account. So now what I can do is I can put in Julie Bear at softtech.com. Okay, I know it's not her email, and then I can click on the send invitation. Okay, now when I send them invitation, now keep in mind you've got member, you've got administrator. Okay, when I click on the send invitation, they're going to get an email. They're going to click on it. It's going to ask them to, create their Linktivity account, and then it's going to automatically enroll them in this workspace. Why is that useful? Well, you've just saved them all the hassles. All they had to do is, name their account, things like that. You've already added them in. You've assigned, they can put in their own ACT information. And as I said, it can even be the exact same as you have here. Okay, so you can set up their accounts. Okay, and in cases where they have already set something up, you can actually do the reverse. You can say, hey, can you go into your workspace and invite me? Okay, and then I will log in as you and I will be able to manage. Okay, now this is manage your account, renew, help you with different things, which I'm going to get into. But this is something that we've added recently that didn't exist before that we think is really going to support your consulting business. Now you can see here where it's 0 of 0 because we've just set this up. But if I was to go to the workspaces here and I was to go into the Encore, teams and permissions, okay. Now you can see here that I have added a link to calendar and I've assigned it to myself, okay. But what's happened with the quantity? Nothing. If you are a designated ACT consultant, okay, and we assign you as a designated Linktivity consultant, your profile will show up with this little icon, okay? You will not be able to use any programs that the customer doesn't have licensed access to, but you can piggyback on anything that they're using. That's why when I assigned the licensing 0 to 1 to this particular workspace, it immediately said 1 was available, and even though that I added myself to it, it didn't take it from the number that was available, because I am an ACT consultant, just judging by this little icon, designated ACT consultant, and now my account has been configured to not consume any licensing, okay? So why is that useful? Well, if I am joining his workspace, okay, either by invitation or by creating, and I'm using his ACT login, and I'm able to use his licensing, okay, then I can help him with building his forms, setting up his link to quotes, setting up all the things that I'm going to talk about without it costing him 1 extra penny for me to work with him as an ACT consultant. Okay, so not only do I have everything within my profile, my login profile, but now I've got the ability to piggyback on my customers' licenses, which I have purchased and assigned for them, okay, and help them out with setting up the trial, you name it. Okay, so this is a very cool new designation that we've added for our ACT consultants. Okay, I'm going to get into a little bit. This is very new, how this is going to be determined, but this is something that, if you're designated as an ACT consultant, you can really start selling, setting up trials, managing, doing all of that, and really being enabler, okay, for something that you're going to be making recurring money off of, plus being able to generate support revenue. So let me just pause for a brief second and see if there's no questions in the chat. Anyone want to submit a question? Okay, I don't see any. Okay, so once this is started, okay, as I said, you can initiate the trials, okay, when I say trials, you can initiate the initial workspace, and then you can set up the trials of each product. And when you go to the home, okay, you're going to see here, see how I'm logged in as Encore? All these here, see, link to events, free trial, link to mail, free trial, link to quotes, free trial, link to surveys, all of these things that indicate dynamically on the icon that they're free trial, you can click on them and set it up as a free trial. See, link to calendar, that's not saying a free trial because as you saw, I already applied a licensing to that, okay? And previously I did forms as well, okay? So then you can initiate this, okay? You can initiate this and set up their trial and get them started. Here's something I'm going to tell you though. Don't start them all at once, okay? They will work concurrently, they will work sequentially. It's all based on when you start them, okay? If you say, hey, these are all programs, you're all going to love them, and you send them links and they all have to, you know, start their trial on the same day, they will not be able to get through all of them in the next 2 weeks unless they have a lot of time on their hands, okay? So coordinate with them to make sure that they are ready to start a trial and which product is their first priority, okay? And then if they're sitting there pawing away at you and saying, hey, I'm interested in this product too, then you can initiate the quote, but tell them, understand that these, you know, the 2 weeks will start when we trigger the trial, okay? So that's important to you know, really explain to them. Okay, now when you are going through all of these things and you're explaining this to them, you are becoming like a real gateway for them in terms of all of these products that are not only going to make Act stickier, but are going to land and expand your revenue with each account. Okay, not just from a licensing standpoint, but from a consulting standpoint. Okay, and one of the other things is, if you haven't already figured this out, if they're all within your workspace and someone calls you and says, hey, this form isn't working, you can just log into your own account and troubleshoot any form, any quote, any survey, anything right from your own login by just going to here, workspaces, and then drilling into the appropriate one. Okay, and then once you're in here, okay, or you can even go here and switch, and that will get you right over to it. And then you can go in to any one of these things and troubleshoot a problem that they're having with it, okay? The one last thing I wanna make clear is that, you know, keep in mind, you guys are going to be guiding them. You're going to be advising them the best practices for things like this. So there's certain jurisdictions that are going to be really sensitive to certain issues more than others. In the United States, there's obviously much fewer privacy rules than in other territories. In Canada, we're governed by privacy legislation called PIPEDA. As most of you know, since 2018, the European Union has been governed by GDPR. Now, the scary thing about GDPR is that GDPR governs not just European Union citizens, but people doing business with European citizens. So you can be in the United States, you can be in Canada doing business with European citizens and be subject to that legislation, okay? So with that in mind, it is useful to know, I had a UK consultant email me this morning saying his customers are very concerned about GDPR compliance, and I was able to send them this link and immediately showed them all the compliance tools that are in place. He was immensely relieved and able to immediately go forward with confidence with the GDPR compliance tools that we have in place, which basically means you can set up on-demand purging of all you know, private data relating to specific contact details. You can set up scheduled purgings. Okay, you can set up intervals. And in the last paragraph, I even talk about the level of encryption on the Azure services where servers where these are hosted. Okay, so familiarizing yourself with this will really allow you to handle some of the natural and I think predictable objections that they're going to have. So being aware whenever, by the way, just I can tell you we're pretty vigilant. When you click on here and you click on home, okay, you see these little what's new, always familiarize yourself with these, okay? You can click on here, sort them by date. You can click here and sort them by subject. okay? But see here, we've added service templates. I'll show you that in a second. Here is the information that we included on GDPR and PIPEDA compliance tools, okay? If you see this, you know immediately to drill down, okay? And added support for copying other people on forms. All of this stuff, as you can see, you know, we had updates on the 21st, updates on the 19th, updates on the 6th, going to January 16th, 13th. We had quite a few updates. So always familiarize yourself with that, because then you're going to be armed to deal with any questions or concerns your customers may have. Okay. So let's go into the way that you guys can make money. Okay. If you go into, I'm just going to pivot over here, go to workspaces, drill into keystroke. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my link to forms, and let's talk about some of the things that you can do. Okay. When you are working with a customer on link to forms, you set up the link to forms. Very quick things, you can set up contact us pages, quote request pages, more info forms for their website. Confirm how each form will be surfaced, okay? If you go here, obviously, you know, down here, we've got forms. This form is kind of a call out box. It's pretty straightforward, but if you go to keystroke, you may want something that blends. Okay, something like this that fits right within a column and just fits within the theme of the website. So whether it's a transparent background, a call out box, whichever, you can work with them on the design and placement of that. And then you can confirm what post submission workflow will they want, okay? Do they want to have follow-up activities? And then for whom? Which groups will all the respondents be organized into, okay? Does anyone need to be copied? Okay, or if you want to set up a drip campaign afterwards, if there's a particular product information page, okay, you may want to set up a drip campaign that sends them information on a scheduled basis on that product and others, okay? Or if it's a trial, okay, you can send them out drips over the course of the trial to really maximize your closing opportunity, okay? All of this information you can present to them as their consultant, okay, and really guide them to optimal use of the program, okay? And this will both engage the sales and marketing staff within your customer's business, increasing your profile further, okay? You can also designate, you know, who the form will be emailed directly to, okay, within the organization. And then if you, let's say you create a form, and I did this demo a few weeks ago, you create a form that needs to be directly emailed out to customers, you can tell them about the merge mail tools that allow you to merge and create a personalized link into each email that goes out. So when they click on it, it pre-populates their contact information into the form, and then they're just led right into the questions. Why is that important? Well, when you email out to people, one, you're trying to get them to complete it, right? If they can immediately go to the questions that are relevant to them, then that's going to increase their chances of finishing it. But more importantly, we are emailing out to the email address that we have on file. If they reply with their personal AOL account or something else like that, then that's going to create a new contact in the database. So by emailing them out a personalized link that pre-populates the form, then you know that the right contact is going to be updated and not just simply have a second contact that has no connection to the first. Okay, so there's multiple reasons. When you're explaining that to them, they're going to say, hey, cool, that's exactly what I want. This is the kind of technology that, you know, I want to employ for my business. And again, raising the technical profile of not just Linktivity, but ACT and also your consulting services. So all of these things can really enhance. So you can then have, by the way, one of the other things here, when you're creating forms, okay, let's go to this, let's say quote requests. I talked about GDPR, okay. If you go in, here's our quote request page. Just wait a moment for a load. By the way, you can see here the follow-up, days 0, that means that we create a follow-up immediately. And then here is one drip, okay. One drip email goes out after the quote request. Seems like I have to apologize for my internet every single time. Why should this be an exception? Come on. Clicking it more than once doesn't normally solve the problem. Okay. Sorry guys, we're in a terrible location here. Okay, so see down here, I put a footer here, okay, because I'm in Canada. I put a footer here to say we take your privacy seriously. Please review our privacy policy, contact and explain that everyone that is filling out this form gets added to our database. Okay, and by doing that, then you're taking those extra steps to make sure that you're going to be compliant with whether it's GDPR or PIPEDA or whichever. Okay, but again, that's an area that you can offer consulting services on. You can also build forms. Boy, that took a long time. Build forms. Okay, you can walk them through all the different, the answering pages set up, what to suppress, little things like, you can use forms for, uh, having like little internal polls or elections or things like that. And you can say, hey, you can prevent multiple submissions. This is why you might want to consider the history private, things like that. Like we've had internal polls of, who should win the best support person, who should win the best salesperson, things like that. People want to share their opinion, but not necessarily have it visible within ACT, so you can make things private. All of these things are configurable options that you can explain, okay, and add value to your services, okay? You can also implement skip logics, which I'm not going to get into here. And then which questions and which question formats, because when you get into the questions here, anytime you click on add, you've got all kinds of different sections here, like different questions types. But if you look down here at internal variable, okay, they may not even have any idea why this exists. So what you can do, internal variable, okay, is you can actually set it up so that it will track the page source. Now, why is that useful? Well, actually, let me just make sure that I'm not saying something I shouldn't here. Okay, let's add field. Okay, internal static is for updating particular fields in the database, which has got to be done under here. Internal variable allows you to, let's say that you're a recruiter, okay, and you want to create one posting, but use it to advertise, say, 50 different listings. Then what you can do is you can put the same form on 50 different pages, and you will know which job that person is applying for, okay, by putting this internal variable, and it will say, this submission came from the secretary position at, B&B, okay? And you will know the page source and therefore the job that it's related to by putting in that internal variable. As a consultant, that's something that they're not going to have any kind of understanding of. They're not going to go through. You can immediately save them time, okay? And can you imagine if they had to create 50 forms? Now you can just create one, use one field, and save them all that trouble, okay? So that's, again, how you can save them time. If you go to link to calendar, everyone's going to be able to set up their personal appointment. Like that's, I'm not going to try to, obfuscate this or make it into anything more difficult. But if you go in and they say to you, hey, I'm a dog groomer, hey, I'm a tradesman, or I work in a clinic and I want people to book appointments with me, but I don't want them to fill up my billable time, my billable calendar without paying. Well, what you can do is you can say, no problem, okay? I can set it up. So go in here, appointments, okay? And I can add an entry here, and I can actually set a price for them to book it, okay? So I can say, hey, if you book my time in this clinic at such and such a time, it's going to be $75 an hour, and they will literally pay as they're booking it. Imagine what it would cost for them to set up an online e-commerce site to not only feed into their availability, but also charge for it, okay? Dare I say it's going to cost a lot more than $120 per year. Okay, so this is where you can add value by introducing this technology to them, and it's like $120. Oh my God, I'll do that in a second, and be able to set up fairly instantly. Just put a little button on their screen, say click here to book an appointment, and it just walks them through the wizard, takes their money, and you've got an appointment, and you're literally helping turn their time into money. Okay, and that's why I said at the beginning how you can literally help them monetize their time. Okay, and then this is just one. Let's say there's a wide variety. Let's say that it was a groomer. Okay, it could be for one level of grooming versus another level of grooming, and they can literally select from a menu of options, and all with different rates, and pay accordingly. Okay, all of which are feeding into your availability that they've got linked to Act. Now, if you set up an online e-commerce system, okay, that is feeding into their database, feeding into their bank account, and doing it all seamlessly for $10 a month, I promise you they're going to be the easiest renewal for both Act and Linktivity when their renewal date rolls around. Okay, so this is, again, why I think it's so valuable to manage everyone's workspace, set up their trials, set up so that you've got management of it, okay, and then just build it out for them, because they can say, hey, you can do this, and then you can constantly use this as leverage to make the account stickier and expand your consulting business. Okay, probably the biggest one and the easiest one is Link to Quotes. Okay, Link to Quotes, because I mean, this is just we've probably spent more on Link to Quotes than all the other products combined in terms of dev commitment. But just think about it. When you set someone up for their workspace and then you enable their product trial, okay, in order to get them started, you're in the quotes. Let's just go here. Okay, you can set them up on their quote layouts. Okay, let me show you something hot off the presses. We have just added 2 more layouts. So if you click on here, okay, now this is something that people wouldn't otherwise know, right? Because what's one of the biggest objections when we're dealing with businesses? Oh, I don't quote products. I'm a service professional. This doesn't suit me. Okay, how about we get a product, the default product, which is there, the product modern, service classic, and let's just select this, okay, and see the preview. Now we've got a service one, okay. Now, there's no data in here, it's just showing products, so this is a little bit difficult, but what you can see is if you actually had details on here, is that all the descriptions would go from right to left. There's no unit, there's no quantity numbers, there's no unit rates. It's all just extended prices. It's modernized with icons going across the top. All of this, as a certified Linktivity professional, you can guide them on. And just knowing this updated information expands your market dramatically, because you may have a bunch of people that say, I'm a professional service, I'm a tech, I'm a this or that. You can immediately not only consult them on some of the layout options that are available, but even incorporate this into your own business process. Okay, I've always said, one of the best advantages of eating your own dog food is that soft sell opportunity. Every single time that you quote them, you're also showcasing the services that they can turn around and buy from you. Okay, but more than that, let's go back to let's close this. Think about it. Okay, you can set up their sales taxes, their currencies, their quoting numbers, set up the review process. Who needs to actually have, admin approval, or can everyone immediately quote right away? Okay, you set that up. What are people's quotas? You can set up their monthly quotas. Which automation do you want to have set up? Okay, do you want to have an activity scheduled for follow-up immediately after the call? Why would you not want to do it on delivery? Well, because a lot of people will do follow-up emails and they may not want to have a scheduled activity every single time. That's why I only have this one and this one checked. Okay, and then here's the reminder before expiry. Set up all the emails that you can use. Okay, you can build up an entire library of emails that are at your disposal. Okay, and then show the staff how to use them. I showed you the layouts. Okay, and then field mapping. You may want to coordinate with them to make the changes to the field mapping, and why this is important, because this is going to have schema implications, right? So why would you can go through and say which ones are important at the contact level, at the opportunity level. They're not going to have any idea about this. Okay, but you familiarizing yourself with them are going to be able to show them what's important and why, and again, enhance their reliance on you in setting all of this up. All of this is billable time, okay? And obviously increasing your value. So importing the products, uploading commonly used product images, okay? Even setting up their QBO, okay? Why is the quote text field a character? Okay, so, okay, the quote text field here, that's just the name, if that's what you're referencing. Is that, why is the quote text field a character field? Oh, sorry, on the mapping, okay. It's safest, it doesn't calculate or anything. We actually, hold on, let me just double check here. Okay, the tax, quote currency. Oh, I see, the quote tax, thank you. What we have done is we've set it up so that you can make changes to, remember, this is in the contact table, okay? I don't want to do a super drill down, but this is something that's useful for people to know. I quote, and my team quotes people on both sides of the border and actually internationally. What we've done is we've set up a field in our database that says, if a value here is, let's say, we designate HST. I went into every single province in Canada and I uploaded through a batch edit and I said, this province is subject to this tax, that tax, okay? So all my sales reps have to do is load the contact and it will load the appropriate sales tax, okay? So this is just a little bit more time saving. Thanks for asking the question. Okay, so again, that's something that you can help them. If they're quoting outside of districts, there may be different sales tax. I have salespeople that are coming from the United States that have to quote in Canada. That's an additional learning curve that I can help reduce by automating all that process. Again, information that's useful. You can upload brochures and documentations. And then, as I said, the images, and then the review process, what I showed you. All of this you can wrap up and then schedule some training. Okay, so this is really, really useful in terms of setting that up, because Link to Quotes is an incredibly powerful program, but like anything with this many configurable options, okay, someone's going to have to go in and do some of the initial setup. Okay, if it's relying on the customer, they're running their business, it's going to get kicked down the road, trials will expire, opportunities will be missed. Okay, so this is a way that you can engage with them and say, hey, look, I'll do this for an hour, charge you $100, it's all set up and you're ready to use. And they'll say, well, why should I pay for a trial? Well, because right now you're wasting more time using Word and Excel. Okay, so how do you want to spend your time? Oh, okay, fine. And then they pay you, it gets it set up. Next thing you know, you got a sale. Okay, really, really easy for objection handling. Now, Link to List is a breeze, okay? Because when you are in here with Link to List and you're in their workspace, you're going to have direct access to all the groups inside of their database, okay? So you just click on New Lists, okay? Type in the group name, okay? Give it a saved option, boom, okay? You can scan their groups. What's your main distribution email list? Scan them, okay? And they'll be incredibly grateful, because there you are sitting at your desk from within your login, validating and scrubbing the contacts in their database. That's pretty cool stuff, okay? Here's the little secret. There's two little things that I like to show people. One, you can create a group that will capture all new contacts. And then what you can do is create a schedule, say every week or every month or every day, to scan that group and verify that all new contacts in your database are using valid emails. Okay, so all this kind of thing you can set up automatically. Now, the other thing that you can do that's really cool that a lot of people don't think about is that you can create a group in their database called Blacklist, okay? And when this program scans and it updates that field, remember, it's going to update the field with valid, invalid, unknown, okay? And I'm blanking on one, not sure why. On that, valid, invalid, unknown, accept all, okay? What you can do is you can say, create a group that every single contact that has an invalid or unknown, okay, will dynamically, in their contact record, will dynamically get populated into the blacklist group. Why is that useful? Well, then you can train your customers that every single time that they send out an AMA campaign, to add the blacklist group as an exclusion. Now think about that. That means no matter what group they load, the blacklist, the contents in the blacklist group will override, okay? And that way they don't have to constantly be updating their marketing groups, each new marketing group, by adding just one blacklist group to their exclusions. They don't have to make, all the little changes to all their different marketing groups, because it will take care of it, okay? Again, great little time-saving tips that add value to your customer's experience and to your services. Okay. Link to surveys. Look, link to surveys. Everyone loves surveys. No one likes building them. Okay. And there is a certain craft to building surveys. I've got 13 minutes left. I'm not going to teach you guys anything on surveys, but if you want to teach, or not just teach, but say, hey, look, what kind of surveys do you want to ask? Like if I go into my surveys here, okay, I try to send out a survey once a month in our newsletter, okay? I've got the APC survey. If I go into here, okay, questionnaires, all these different conditions that I've built, and as I said, I'm not gonna be training anyone here today, but you can set up lead triggers, okay, based on how they answer. You can set up skip logic, so that if they answer one thing, skip over a bunch of other questions that, aren't going to relate to them. You can build all of these things, so you can go to your customer and say, what information would you like to capture, and what leads would you like to trigger and identify, okay? They can give you the basic outline and said, okay, which questions don't relate to which people, okay? And well, if they say, no, I'm not interested in AMA, then I probably shouldn't go into all the features and things, or let's say I'm using something else, okay? I'm not gonna run full speed into what I know are headwinds, okay? I will then skip over and say, go to the last question, thanks for your time, blah, blah, blah. But if they say, hey, tell me more, then I may wanna schedule, add them to a group, schedule a follow-up call, do whatever. I can really enhance the value from just data harvesting to lead recognition, okay, and organizing follow-ups with the sales team, okay? So this becomes then a marketing and a sales tool. And I promise you, as powerful as this is, no business owner or marketing person has the time to get to learn this. So you can enhance your value by bridging that gap and allowing them to get production use of surveys, okay, without having to put in the learning time, okay? And then lastly is link to quotes, or link to events, I should say. Link to events, everyone kind of understands. Like, let's say I was organizing this event and I wanted to send out, an invite, get everyone to sign up. Even if it's just explaining how they can save money, you guys are all joining here with a meeting link. This meeting link costs between $16 and $20. If you look at the features of a webinar service, and it doesn't matter if you're using Zoom or GoTo or Adobe or any of those, the cost difference between a meeting service and a event or a webinar service is typically $100 to $150, okay? Sometimes more. Quite literally, it could be 10 times as much. Well, for $20, okay, you can not only bridge the gap between those two services and all the features, but also have the functionality, okay, of integrating into ACT and saving that additional time. So all the people that respond get registered into ACT, they get linked to the activity, they get organized into groups, all of these things that you can explain, whereas linked to events, it will either resonate with people right away, or they'll just kind of dismiss it as something that isn't relevant. And if you understand the value of it, okay, that, hey, would you like to know exactly how many people are going to be expected to show up for your event so you can plan resources accordingly? Okay, all of these things, and maximize your turnout, maximize your return on investment, because we can actually set up not just reminders, but follow-ups immediately afterwards. All of these things are going to be of value to them, but they will dismiss it if it represents a learning curve and something that they haven't fully understood. Okay, by you going in, you could save some time, introduce the opportunity for you to bill for that time, and actually end up saving them a ton of money and effort by introducing this valuable service. Okay. So Steve has asked, can trials be extended? It's a little tricky. I will look in at building some of that. Okay, trials are a little tricky to extend. So, that's why I tell people, please be careful in terms of when you trigger the start of them. Okay, because if you trigger too many trials at once, people literally won't have the opportunity to kick the tires within the window that you allow them. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so let me just recap the big thing that's changed here. The big thing that's changed here is the designation as a consultant. Okay, so if you go into here, if I go into Keystroke and I go into Teams and Permissions, I'm going to see myself here as the only consultant on this team. Okay, and I no longer occupy a license. Now, let me be super clear. If there is no licensing here, if this is in trial mode, okay, and there is no licensing here, my presence will not give them licensing. I can only piggyback on it, okay? Judy's asked, will this new console environment allow or also include products that are not Linktivity products? No, this is all strictly Linktivity console management, okay, that doesn't relate to ACT or any other add-ons. Interesting question. I hadn't thought of that. Okay. Any other questions? But this is the big one. This allows you to go back here and say, you know what? I'm going to be managing all of my customers' workspaces. I'm going to set up their trial. I'm going to do everything, okay, for them. And one of the things that we'll be introducing on Monday that doesn't exist right now is the ability to delete a workspace. So let's say you've got a workspace, the customers have quit ACT, blah, blah, blah. They don't want to do this anymore. You don't want to have this in your management console. On Tuesday, we expect to build in a delete option. The reason we're being careful is we want to make sure that there aren't any unintended repercussions to this. So what we're going to do, the reasons why it takes a couple of days, is we're going to be building in a trash bin. So when you delete it, you'll have 30 days to undo that, okay? So like I said, so let's say one of my customers, let's say Encore, calls me up and says, hey, this form isn't working. I can be right within, looking at my own quotes, pivot over to his workspace and immediately drill in and see what's going on. Okay, so this is something that we thought I really wanted to kind of get out there and explain to the consultants that this really represents a big opportunity. So one, it's terrific for leading with and selling ACT. It's terrific for going to existing ACT customers and expanding your recurring revenue with them, and it's also great for enhancing the the service relationship, the consultancy relationship that you have with them. Okay. So we're at an hour, guys. I want to respect everyone's time. You guys have gone pretty easy with me on the questions. I will publish the link to this. I hope this was of value to you guys. So thank you very much for your time. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me, ken@kqc.ca. I will distribute this out to everyone that registered, as well as all ACCs in the appropriate social media places. So if I don't speak to you guys before the end of the day, I wish you all a great weekend, and thank you for coming.